Hi, my name is Melissa Weekly. This is my assignment for my reflection on blended learning strategies in my digital collaboration community. So my synthesis for my blended learning research paper, I tried to really focus on 4 things. So blended learning really creates an opportunity for individualized learning. It really gives the students and also the teacher more control for each student's path and pace that they would like to take within a lesson. It doesn't restrict them to the same pace that an entire class is moving in, and I think this is not only beneficial for the high students and the low students, but all the students in between. It also creates opportunities for more freedom, the increased motivation, and self-efficacy. So it really puts an emphasis on the ownership and responsibility of student learning, and blended learning gives that constant feedback to students, which really increases that motivation to keep learning and want to do better. Also creates opportunities for integrating technology into every lesson. Now, it may not be every lesson for every student. However, this is something that we really focused on in this program overall, and I think blended learning really paves the way to be able to do this eventually. Like I said, maybe not for every student and for every lesson, but in the most effective way possible for each student. And finally, the exposure to a variety of learning styles. Students aren't just being exposed to the pedagogy of one teacher. They're not just doing the set and get with lecture style, or they're not just in small group. They're able to do things like videos, be more collaborative with others, more inquiry, use more digital tools. So they're not just exposed to that one learning style of the teacher. As much as teachers, we like to think we use quite a variety, but without digital tools, we are very limited. So my 2 biggest takeaways from this module, my first one is that blended learning extends the pedagogy of the teacher, I should say extends beyond the pedagogy of the teacher, and it creates a learning environment that's more interactive and adaptive for students. This is probably my biggest takeaway because, like I said before, students aren't just stuck to one learning style. They're not just stuck to the pedagogy of one teacher. It really goes beyond that. It creates a learning environment where students are interactive with one another, they're interactive with the teacher, and they're interactive digitally. And all those things are adaptive and scaffolded for students based on their needs. My second takeaway was a teaching presence and a social presence are both imperative for an effective learning environment. This made me not only realize this in my research of blended learning, but it also made me reflect on my graduate and undergraduate courses, because I think even just in higher education, I have learned just as much, if not more, from a social, more collaborative presence with my peers and with my instructors than I really have in a sit-down teaching learning presence. So I think especially if that's something that that's a skill that students need to acquire before they get to the real world, that it's imperative that we start now in elementary. So the impact of collaboration, it was nice because I was able to gain insight on multiple learning strategies, and then it was really neat to see how these strategies can overlap within the different types of learning techniques that we had. It was really cool to see that some of my strategies that I had for blended learning were also used in inquiry-based learning and project-based learning. So we might not always put a title of inquiry-based or project-based or blended on the strategies and the type that we're using, but it's neat to see that they overlap and they are things that we use in the classrooms daily, whether we really realize it or not. So it was great learning from everyone.